Hello, everyone. Please hit that like button as you guys come in. I want to talk about Marquez practically begging Carlos King for his job back on Love and Marriage-Huntsville. So make sure you watch this until the end. Make sure you hit that like button. Everybody, thank you very much. Okay, so there's a comment here that I want to read. Daisy left that a little bit earlier. I don't know if you're in the chat, Daisy. Marquez, please get out of here. Sick of you and hearing about you. Okay? What an intro. What an intro, guys. So let's start with Marquez. All right. So I am going to show you guys really quickly what Marquez initially said. So for those of you who may have forgotten, because it's been a while now, Marquez had posted a while back that and tagged Carlos King saying that he never checked in on him, never called to hear his side of the story, or even to do any research on who was casted, right? So if you guys don't remember, it's basically in the context of, as you guys know, Marquez got into some sort of physical altercation, allegedly, with Ken on the show. And then after that, he was basically asked to leave the show, right? So then he says the lies, the disrespect, the disregard for me, my children, my family, and friends, my legacy is nasty work. If you really care about unifying Black families and showcasing Black excellence, maybe you should reconsider before you how you operate before it becomes your downfall. Call me if you truly care about my mental health. Now, I don't know if you guys remember that one of the things I did cover at the time was I thought it was very interesting that Marquez was saying, call me if you care about my mental health. That is somebody that is showing that I'm not fully closing the door. I'm giving you an opportunity to hopefully make it right. So now, fast forward to the latest news on this. It seems like Marquez finally wants the job back. So here we're seeing Marquez posted on his story saying, I wanted to take a moment to apologize and acknowledge my prior actions aimed at you personally. After speaking with you, I can admit that I had an emotional reaction at the time. But since then, I've been doing the work, going to counseling, doing the work, getting counseling, focusing on healing my mental health and my family. I'm truly grateful for the conversation we had that night. It stuck with me and helped me start seeing things differently from your perspective. Thank you. And hey, maybe one day you'll get me back on the show so I can tell my story the right way this time. And then says, I am the storyline. And I'm like, okay, fine, Marquez. This is my thing with Marquez, right? I feel like Marquez does not know where he stands. Because one minute you are saying, oh, the way you were treated was awful and you were discarded and they didn't consider your mental health. You had the interview with Queen Sheba and you had lots to say about how you were feeling and how you felt like everything was set up and all of these things. Yet, you want the opportunity to come back on the show to do what exactly? For them to get another opportunity to set you up? So I guess my question is, did you truly feel like you were set up initially? Or did you just say that to cover face because of some of the crazy things that we saw you do? Which is it, right? And it's like, stay there. Like, I appreciate that people can change and like your views can change and all of that. And apologizing where you're wrong, that's fine. But my thing is like, you have been screaming victim for a while now. You have been going and talking about this issue, about how production so-called did you dirty. And then a few weeks later, months later, you're coming out here to talk about, oh, I'm so grateful for the conversation we had that night and it stuck with me and all of that. So it's a little bit pretentious and it's given, I want my job back at all cost. So if I need to like grovel a little bit, if I need to come out here and make it seem like, oh, well, technically, I did this, but I am the storyline. I'm sorry. I've done the work. Bring me back on the show. Maybe it will work. The thing about it is, I feel like it may work because at the moment, it does feel like Trish doesn't really have anything else going on for her. accept that storyline anyway. So I will not be surprised if they bring him back. The truth of the matter is also the show isn't really doing as well as it should be doing. So I will not be surprised if it's like a, all right, let's bring it back. Let's bring him back. Let's see if he can bring some drama to the show. Let's run him back. I will not be surprised if that ends up happening because, to be honest, the show needs all the help the show can get in this season. That's just the reality. I think he tries to and then he doubles down. You know, when have you ever met people that say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and then the next minute they do something again that shows that they're not sorry? That's the vibe I get with him. He does one thing and then doubles down again. But if he's truly getting counseling, and you guys know I've always said this for a while, that I feel like he does need counseling. There are some of the signs and things that he shows. For example, an inability to manage his emotions, allowing people to take you to that extent so quickly is not surprising, personally, right? And so I feel like I'm not surprised that he's gotten to this point. That's what I would say. But if he's truly getting therapy, if he's truly getting counseling, if he's truly focusing on his mental health and doing the work that he should be doing, I would say focus on that work. I don't know if the show is going to be a good platform for you to come back and play with your mental health, knowing fully well how stressful you felt it was, how pretentious you felt it was, unless you were lying to us the whole time and just saying all of those things to run away from accountability. So which is it? I'm going to read maybe another comment. Someone said, two things can be true. Here's the storyline for Tish and Carlos. Could care less about these people. Absolutely. Shout out to Reality Entertainment TV, because that's where I got this from. All right, I'm going to talk about Porsha real quick because I know like a lot of things have been doing the rounds. Porsha was, you guys know, just some backstory for those of you who don't know. Porsha basically was able to win in court in terms of enforcing her prenuptial agreement that her and Simon got. And interestingly enough, now the home that her and Simon have together has now been hit with a 6-figure lien after he failed to pay his divorce lawyer. First of all, my question is like, why are you incurring that much cost and not paying? My thing is like, why weren't the lawyers like, because basically you be doing certain bills, right? Like every couple of months or whatever, you send a bill out, the client pays it. So it's like, why weren't you guys doing that? You guys left it until the end to collect your money? Interesting. Now, of course, different law firms have the way or different ways in which they do it. Also, it could be something where he told them he wasn't liquid, but he has equity in the home anyway from the start. And then that was already the plan to put a lien on the property. So that is also a potential, that's a possibility. Genuinely, that could have also been a possibility. Just putting that out there. But I think it's interesting that he owes about $205,000 for his divorce just from trying to enforce the prenup. It's like, dude, you could have that's $205,000 that you're paying your lawyers from your equity share in this property. This is what it's given. It's given, if I can have the house, you will not be able to have the house. So I'm going to do whatever it is that I need to do to make sure you don't get the opportunity to keep this house. That is the vibe that I'm getting. Because how are you going to owe $205,000? And then now a lien is being put on the property. It's given, you knew this was the strategy. That is what it feels like. Now, I'm going to just put this out there because I do not want to get sued. I'm not stating this as a fact. This is just my opinion, for entertainment purposes only. I genuinely just feel like that is what it's given because I just don't understand why you incurred that much and you weren't paying your lawyers and then now is then being placed as a lien on the property. if that was not your intention to do that to begin with. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, this means that Porsha will not be able to do anything. I don't believe so, right? From my experience of liens, now I will put a huge disclaimer out there, right? I don't know what they be doing in that state. I don't know whether the law is the same over in the state, but generally when there's a lien on a property, right? There are different types of liens. When there's a lien on the property, what could happen is when the property is sold, of course, that certain amount will then need to be basically paid, right? From the whatever the proceeds of the sale is, right? And also with certain liens, right? Certain buyers, you may not be able to sell it without getting some sort of permission to be able to sell the property, right? With a lien being placed on the property. But essentially, what would happen is the portion of his equity, if for instance the property, there's permission for the property to be sold, the property gets sold, there is a portion of the let's say the equity, the proceeds, right? He has a certain percentage of the proceeds. From that, then the divorce cost comes out of that, right? It's not going to come out of her share, it's going to come out of his share of that. Bear in mind also that, as far as I know, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, he's also the one meant to pay her legal fees for bringing this claim against her, even in court, right? So that is also going to come out of his equity. In the end, he may not even have much left on that property at all, right? Or very, very little, very, very minimal after all these different things come out of the sale proceeds. So, excuse me. So I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, and you guys said Porsha won. She still won. She still has the property. Now, the question is, how much equity is in the property? That's where things get interesting, right? How much equity is in the property? How much? My understanding is they're meant to do an equal split between them. So, how much is in the property? So if the property is sold for, how much is he meant to get? How much is that if we take out the legal fees out of it? So these are the questions that I need answers to before I start saying whether or not she won or he won. But for now, I feel like the property is worth 5 million, as far as I know. It may be less than that in terms of like when you start thinking about the liability, like the mortgages on the prop or the mortgage on the property, all that kind of stuff. But for now, from what I know, the property is probably maybe worth let me see. They've done it for me. Let's see. According to US Weekly, and shout out to Bravo Shade Room for this. Basically, it's an 8-bedroom, 5-bedroom, 8-bathroom home worth an estimated 7.3 million. Okay, so I don't know how much it is in a mortgage and all that kind of like things that need to come off the property proceeds, but still, I don't think that $205,000 is going to take up everything. So I still think that she will still be left with a surplus. This is just my opinion. But the way he is behaving, if I were Porsha, I would be very mindful. I will proceed thinking about the potential that he's not even going to pay for the upkeep of the house like he's meant to pay. All of these things that he's meant to comply with until I believe 2027 or something. I will assume that he's not going to do those things. If he's already moving like this, my man has no plans to pay for this. So if I were her, I would be very, very careful and make sure that I'm like, okay, I'm speaking to like, a financial planner, like what is it that I need to do? I'm speaking to my lawyer. How is the best way to deal with this? Because You don't want to end up with a massive liability on your hands. Porsha. Anyways, hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. What are you doing? Hit it, smash it. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And also share with your friend, your sister, everybody, your ex, you know, everybody, honey. Anyways, I will talk to you guys in the next video. Thank you. Bye.